The Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Cincinnati Bengals. This is who's in, who's out, and everything you need to know about this game. So, the 4-1 Steelers travel to Cincinnati to take on the 2-4 Bengals tomorrow on Thursday Night Football at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. And this will take place at Packer Stadium in Cincinnati. So, going into this game, the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't the ones that are injured. They aren't the ones that are banged up, because that is Cincinnati. The Cincinnati Bengals have a lot of injuries on their team, and they are projected to have at least 4 players out for this game. And I'll get more into who those players are in a little bit. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, they aren't that injured. They really only have one major injury in terms of a player who is out for a season now, and that's Miles Killebrew, who went down with a knee injury in last week's game and is now headed to IR and more likely will miss the rest of the season. They also have wide receiver Calvin Austin, who's out with a shoulder injury. That one doesn't look too severe. He has missed some time. He'll miss this week's game as well because he did not participate in practice, but he should be back in a little bit. So other than that, the Pittsburgh Steelers don't really have any injuries to report. Malik Harrison, who was on injury reserve, practiced this week in limited participants. Who knows if he gets activated, but he may be ready. So we have to be aware with that. But the only person on the 53-man roster who's out for this week's game is Calvin Austin. Now, looking at those players for Cincinnati, they're dealing with quite a few injuries. They have players like Trey Hendrickson, who did not participate in practice this week with a hip injury, and he looks to be out for this game. They have tight end Mike Gesicki, who just went down with a pectoral injury and was placed on injury reserve today, so he will be missing this week's game as well. They also have tight end Tanner Hudson, who's dealing with a concussion, did not participate in any practice days this week, and he's out for this week's game as well. They also have wide receiver Charlie Jones with a rib injury. He did not participate as well and is out for this week's game. So the Bengals are banged up. Those are 4 players who are out for this week's game. There's some other players who appear on the injury report. They look to be ready to go, but who really knows? There might be more than 4, but those are the 4 certain ones we know so far. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are usually the team that's banged up, have to play with some backups, some other players in versus a healthy opponent. But in the past 2 weeks, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been fortunate to only have really one injury in Calvin Austin and now Miles Killebrew on their roster, compared to other teams who are now dealing with more injuries than the Steelers. Steelers got obviously Jalen Ramsey back. That was a huge relief because he didn't have to miss time with a hamstring injury, and they look to be going solid now. Now, looking at the game being played on the field, because of those injuries, the Steelers were actually able to put up points, were able to play great defense in the past few weeks because of these players, these starters, being healthy and now being all together. When you're healthy, you get to do more on offense and do more on defense and open up the playbook and play more solid and together because you don't have to rely on other people. Are they going to be in the right spot? Who knows? So the Steelers defense showed up because of it. The first few weeks they've been playing with all these injured players. They looked terrible. Even though they won games, they looked terrible. But now with the starters back, they look amazing. So that's how it affects the game being played on the field. And for the Bengals, they're already not good on defense in terms of letting so many points, letting so much yardage. Missing Trey Hendrickson, who was probably a runner-up for Defense Player of the Year last year, led the league in sacks. He's a great defensive player. And the Pittsburgh Steelers don't really have that good of an offensive line in terms of pass protection, so he could have wreaked havoc on this game, but he will be missing it. So the Bengals, they miss a key piece to their defense, but the Steelers, they get lucky to not have to face someone of that great talent. So that's how it affects the game being played on the field. Now, that doesn't mean that this can't be a surprise game for the Steelers, where even though the Bengals are so banged up, missing Joe Burrow as well, that they can't come in here and shock the Steelers. They still have some great talent on offense in terms of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. They just traded for Joe Flacco. So, in order for the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game, what they have to do is play like they've been playing the last 2 weeks against the Vikings, and this last week against Cleveland Browns. Because if they play like they played last week, put your big unit on the field, play bully ball, run the football, take some shots down the field. It'll really open up this team. And if they score points to help this defense, you know the defense is going to make stops. You know they're going to cause turnovers. They're going to do their thing. So the offense needs to do that, run the ball, and then pass off of it to help the defense. And for the defense, they need to stick up and shut out the run game. That's been the biggest thing this season. Can they stop the run? Well, versus the Cincinnati Bengals, the Bengals aren't really good at the run. So I would say flip the narrative there. They need to be able to stop the pass. They need to stop Jamar Chase. They need to stop T. Higgins. The run game hasn't been good with Chase Brown this season. So I would flip it. Instead of being good at the run game, obviously you want to do that, I would say be better at the pass game this week versus a Bengals team who wants to throw the ball more. They just traded for Joe Flacco, and you know they're going to be heating things up, cooking some things up to get them used to this offense. And in a second week in this offense, it may look even better than it did last week, because last week it didn't look too good. So that's how the Steelers need to win this game. Now, for the Bengals side, what do they need to do? Well, they need to get their run game going. Obviously, like I said, they're relying too much on their pass game because that's what's carrying them. But their run game needs to get going. You do have Chase Brown, a really good running back. You don't really have that good of an offensive line, but get the running back involved. That's how I would say the Bengals would secure this win. Because you know the Steelers sometimes struggle in the run game. And there could be a team that utilizes the running back that could just go off versus the Steelers, because it's happened in the past. So if they could get the run game going, they have a really good chance. And for the pass game, I would say use some screens, use some dump offs. You know the Steelers are going to not really let anything over top, other than maybe busted coverages, which we've seen a lot of recently. But I would say use the screen game, because the Steelers in the past just haven't been good at the screen game and these short passes. They usually let a blanket on their defense, meaning bend but don't break. So if you could throw it short and they could run it and have yards after catch, that's how the Bengals could secure this win. And for the defense side of the ball, stop the run. And don't let anything over the top, because it really hasn't been an intermediate game. It's either been deep shots or it's been run games and very underneath stuff. So you don't really have to worry about the middle of the field or intermediate passing game for the Steelers. So that's how the Bengals win this game. That's always been one thing of concern for the Steelers, is because they play too much bend but don't break. If they eventually break, the game doesn't go their way. And I've always been an advocate for playing more press or playing more up on the line of scrimmage, because that's what their cornerbacks are best at. Like Joey Porter Jr. did the most of that in college. Darius Slay did that with the Eagles, but they just don't play that way. That's not how the Pittsburgh Steelers defense plays football. And that's been a big concern in recent years with the Pittsburgh Steelers in terms of allowing yardage and free releases off the line of scrimmage. Now, just in general, because this video is coming to an end, who do I believe wins this game? Well, I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers do. And if they don't, there's a problem. Because like I said, the Bengals aren't good. They're banged up. They're injured. There should be no way the Steelers lose this game. They should be able to have all their stars in there, and there shouldn't be any miscommunication. And because of that, the Steelers should win this game. Yes, it could be an underdog story with the Bengals, a division opponent, and you can never count out a divisional opponent, rival, I guess. But the Steelers really should win this game easily. It should not be a competition. But who knows? We always say the Pittsburgh Steelers, it goes down to the wire every single week with them. It hasn't recently, but that's usually just how it goes with the Steelers. So I believe the Steelers win this game, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Who do you think wins this? Do you think it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, or do you think it's the Bengals? And also, what's your keys to the game? And who will shine? And what are your thoughts on the injuries and how they affect this game? Also, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis reports. Everything surrounding this team, I have you covered all season long with game updates like this, injury reports, but also news, breaking news, everything like that. So stay tuned, like, comment, and subscribe to this channel, turn notifications, share this video, and until the next video tomorrow covering this team, I'll see you guys all later. I'm out. Peace.